Welcome back. Today our story begins at St Mary's Church in Ketley, where the grave of William and Jane Edge stands. The headstone reads, "In loving memory of William Edge, Queen's Head, Ketley, late of Ketley Bank, who died March 26, 1928, aged 55 years. Also Jane, wife of the above, who died September the 6th, 1950, aged 74 years. Life's golden chain was broken. Now they are together again." After her husband's death in 1928, Jane Edge took over the licence of the Queen's Head pub. She quickly became known as a kind-hearted lady, respected by all who knew her. But on the afternoon of September the 6th, 1950, her kindness was met with a horrific betrayal. On the afternoon of September the 6th, the Queen's Head pub in Ketley, Shropshire was quiet. Jane Edge, 74 years old and well known for her kindness, was alone after the lunchtime rush. Her son Jack would later recall that he left for work early that morning as usual and returned home just before 5:30 p.m. When he arrived, he found the front door locked, a rare occurrence. Entering through a side door, he discovered his mother sitting in a chair in the living room, her hands hanging down, blood on the back of the chair and severe injuries to her head. She was dead. The till in the bar had been rifled and money was missing. The family's little dog was by her side, silent. The murder sent shockwaves throughout the community. Scotland Yard was called in and the investigation began immediately. Detectives stopped cars on the A5, questioned drivers about hitchhikers and checked local military camps for absentees. The crime scene was meticulously examined by Chief Inspector Campbell, a renowned fingerprint expert, and Professor J. M. Webster, a Home Office pathologist. They found blood and hair on a beer crate in the bar, blood stains on a dishcloth, coins and clothing, and even charred remains of imitation pearls in a stove at a local hostel. These pearls were believed to be part of Jane Edge's missing jewellery, suggesting an attempt to destroy evidence. Witnesses were interviewed. The last confirmed sighting of Jane Edge alive was at 2:30 p.m, when Mrs. Poulter, who ran a mobile cafe opposite the pub, saw her securing the premises. Several people reported seeing men in the area, but no clear suspect emerged at first. The investigation was one of the most extensive ever seen in Shropshire at the time. The autopsy revealed severe head injuries consistent with a violent attack, but also noted that the house was not ransacked and only a small amount of money was missing from the till. Police received multiple descriptions of men seen near the inn, including one report of a man in a brownish coat. However, no clear suspect emerged immediately and there was no line on a weapon used in the attack. The investigation included advanced forensic work for the time. Bloodstains found on clothing, coins and even a dishcloth were tested and matched to Jane Edge's blood group. The presence of blood on coins and notes suggested the killer had handled them after the attack. The investigation into the murder of Jane Edge quickly zeroed in on a Frank Griffin, whose movements on the day of the crime were pieced together through witness testimony and forensic evidence. On the morning of September the 6th, Frank Griffin was seen at the Red Lion pub in Wellington, where he stayed for about half an hour. He then moved to the Lamb Inn in New Street, remaining there until closing time at 2:30 p.m. Witnesses later placed him walking on the road between the Cock Island and the Buck's Head, heading in the direction of the Queen's Head pub, about an 8-minute walk away. Around 2:20 p.m, witnesses saw Griffin near the Queen's Head. At 3:40 p.m, a man matching his description was seen inside the pub. After this, Griffin was not seen again until nearly 10 p.m. that night. At 9:50 p.m, Griffin entered the Plough pub in Wellington, where he stayed until closing time. Later, he visited the home of Mr. and Mrs. Perry to collect a suitcase he had previously pawned and exchanged a large quantity of silver for £5 in notes. During this visit, he made the cryptic remark, "You have not seen me tonight." In the following days, Griffin was observed spending money freely, buying expensive drinks and paying off debts. He moved between pubs and hostels and at one point was seen at the Tontine Hotel in Ironbridge, where he continued to drink and appeared increasingly agitated. Frank Griffin was a 40-year-old labourer from Bolton, Lancashire. Griffin had been staying at the Tontine Hotel in Ironbridge and working at Sankey's in Hadley until just days before the murder. He was described as a stocky man, married and known to drink, but not habitually to excess. When police searched Griffin's room at Apley Industrial Hostel, where he had been living, they found a cream shirt with bloodstains, trousers that appeared to have been washed, and a Gladstone bag containing coins, some stained with human blood matching Jane Edge's blood group. In the stove, they found the burnt remains of imitation pearls. Griffin's statements to police were inconsistent. At times he admitted to being at the Queen's Head, taking money from the till and even striking Jane Edge with a pint mug, but he later claimed he was too drunk to remember and denied intending to harm her. Investigators reconstructed the movements of Frank Griffin on the day of the murder, tracking his visits to local pubs, his interactions with witnesses and his financial transactions. Griffin's sudden increase in spending and attempts to change large amounts of silver for notes raised suspicions. When first questioned, Griffin gave a confused account of his day, claiming he had been drinking heavily and suffered a blackout. He said, "All I can say is that last week on September the 6th, I was in the Lamb at about 2 p.m. The next thing I remember is waking up in the hostel about 7 p.m. that evening. For about a week I've been drinking pretty continuously. This is the first blackout I can remember since I had sunstroke in Mexico City some years ago. After I woke up in the hostel, I went out drinking again." At one point, Griffin admitted to police, "I hit her with one of the pint mugs. She fell down. I took about £20 from the till. It was not worth it." However, he later retracted this, saying he was drunk and could not remember making the statement. He also claimed, "I went to the Queen's Head, but there was nobody there. But what happened afterwards I am not sure. I don't know what happened, but I did take the till and clear off." On the stand, Griffin described entering the Queen's Head, being served by Jane Edge, and then, upon seeing the till, taking the money. He claimed he had no intention of stealing until that moment. When confronted by Mrs. Edge, he said he pushed her away, causing her to fall, and tried to quiet her when she screamed. He denied striking her with a mug and insisted he did not intend to cause serious harm. He also denied taking any jewellery, saying he only took money from the till. Griffin's actions after the murder were erratic. He spent money freely, burnt items in a stove at his hostel, and gave inconsistent accounts to police. Forensic evidence, such as bloodstains on his clothing and coins, linked him to the crime scene, but his state of intoxication and shifting stories complicated the investigation. These movements and statements, combined with forensic evidence and witness testimony, painted a complex picture. Was Griffin a desperate thief who panicked, or a man so drunk he could not remember his actions? The jury had to decide whether his intent met the threshold for murder, or if this was a tragic case of manslaughter fueled by alcohol and circumstance. The forensic investigation into the murder of Jane Edge was remarkably thorough for its time, and the evidence collected would become central to the case against Frank Griffin. Professor J.M. Webster, a Home Office pathologist, found that Jane Edge had suffered multiple injuries: bruises, abrasions, a black eye, a laceration on the scalp, and significant trauma to her mouth and neck. The cause of death was determined to be heart failure, triggered by blunt violence to the head, face and neck, compounded by her pre-existing heart condition and high blood pressure. Blood and hair were found on the outer corner of a beer crate in the pub's servery, supporting the theory that Jane Edge was first injured in the bar before moving, or being moved, to the living room. A pint mug, reportedly used in the attack, was also found at the scene. Several coins and £1 notes recovered from Griffin's possessions tested positive for human blood. Some of the money found in his Gladstone bag and at the hostel was stained, and forensic analysis linked these stains to the victim. However, despite the theft, police recovered over £150 in notes from the pub itself, most of it untouched, raising questions about the true motive for the crime. A cream shirt belonging to Frank Griffin was found to have bloodstains down the right side. His trousers, part of a grey suit he wore on the day of the murder, also showed signs of having been washed to remove blood. Professor Webster testified that the injuries to Jane Edge's mouth, neck and head were consistent with violence, including being grasped by the throat and having fingers forced into her mouth. However, he also acknowledged under cross-examination that it was possible for someone to have helped her from one place to another after she was injured, which aligned with parts of Griffin's account. This combination of forensic findings, blood group matching, the presence of blood on money and clothing, and the discovery of burnt jewellery helped build a compelling case for the prosecution. Yet some of the evidence also supported the defence's claim that the fatal injuries could have resulted from a fall after being pushed rather than a premeditated attack. This relentless and methodical investigation showcased the determination of law enforcement to bring justice for Jane Edge. Yet, as we'll see later, even with all this evidence, questions about motive, intent and the role of alcohol would linger for years to come. The trial of Frank Griffin was a sensation. 41 witnesses were called over 3 days. The prosecution argued that Griffin entered the pub with the intent to steal and in the course of the theft killed Jane Edge. The evidence was damning: blood-stained clothing, coins with traces of human blood, burnt jewellery and witness statements tracking Griffin's movements. The prosecution pointed out that Griffin had the opportunity, was seen near the pub at the critical time and was found with money and items linked to the crime. The defence, however, argued that Griffin was in a drunken state, had no intention to kill, and that the fatal injuries could have resulted from a fall after a push, not a premeditated attack. They highlighted inconsistencies in the evidence and the possibility that Griffin's confessions were made while intoxicated. Even the judge, Mr. Justice Castles, instructed the jury to consider whether Griffin was so drunk that he could not have formed the intent to kill or cause grievous bodily harm, a distinction that could mean the difference between murder and manslaughter. After 2 hours and 25 minutes of deliberation, the jury found Frank Griffin guilty of murder. He was sentenced to death and executed at Shrewsbury Prison on January 4th, 1951. His appeal was dismissed, and on the day of the execution, Jane Edge's sons and a small crowd waited outside the prison gates. To this day, questions linger. Some physical evidence, like blood and hair found on a beer crate, seemed to support Griffin's account that Jane Edge's fatal injuries may have resulted from a fall after being pushed. The police recovered over £150 in notes from the pub, most of it untouched, which raises doubts about whether robbery was Griffin's primary motive. And then there's the issue of Griffin's state of intoxication. He was reportedly extremely drunk when first questioned, and some witnesses testified that he was not a habitual drinker of spirits. Was this truly a case of premeditated murder or a tragic manslaughter fueled by desperation and alcohol? The debate continues to this day. The Queen's Head pub was demolished in September 1973, and now the large Ketley Brook roundabout sits in its place. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the past. The murder of Jane Edge remains a haunting reminder of how quickly tragedy can strike, even in the most peaceful communities. If you found this story compelling, please like, subscribe and hit the bell for more videos. And let us know in the comments, do you think justice was served in the case of Jane Edge? Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.